Good morning, Wabash. Today speaking in Pioneer Chapel is Dr. Zachery Koppelmann. Dr. Koppelmann arrived at Wabash via a circuitous path. After a heart-to-heart conversation with a bed of scorpions in the Mojave Desert, he left field artillery for studying writing at Boise State University. He soon joined the Boise State University Writing Center, after which he completed his bachelor's and master's degrees. His Hail Mary application to Purdue University succeeded, and 5 short years later, he joined Wabash College to direct the Writing Center and mentor students regarding time management, study skills, and generally all things college. Dr. K's awesome wife, Heather, has been a constant support through his travels and can be found buried in accounting work or hoarding their 2 cats. Giving his talk titled, Wabash Always Fights, 1,300 Days Later, please welcome Dr. Koppelmann.
Good morning, Wabash! What's the follow-up to that? Anybody know? It's 0600 in the morning. What does 0600 stand for? I'd like to thank the Sphinx Club for affording me this honor of being able to speak with you, and I'd like to thank the Wabash community for not only welcoming me, but showing up for my talk today. I hope that it is, at the very least, entertaining. If my count is correct, as of today, I have officially been part of the Wabash community for 1,322 days. That doesn't really roll off the tongue, so I took a little bit of creative license in the title, and I will admit I'm not 100% sure if the scorpions actually talked back to me in the desert or if that was sleep deprivation. As I said in my bio, I arrived at Wabash via a circuitous route. Back in high school, I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, but that was thwarted by dyslexia. I trained and worked as an EMT. I got married. I worked in an ER, worked a few other odd jobs, and then ended up in the Army. I was in combat arms, which at the time was all male. I learned to function in an all-male environment, in an all-male combat unit at that, and I hope I excelled. When my enlistment was up, I decided I was going to go to college. I'd take the ROTC, become an officer, return, retire, full-time Army. That was my plan until I saw how soldiers were being treated when they returned from Iraq and Afghanistan. I saw soldiers who had served honorably in combat, who were punished and demoted for having mental illnesses, emotional issues, and generally struggling with what they'd seen. Instead of taking care of the soldiers, instead of listening to the doctors, many officers assumed that the soldiers were just weak or lazy. I heard the phrases, they weren't man enough, or they just need to man up and deal with it, or they need to be better soldiers. I did not participate in ROTC. I became an English writing major, started working in the Writing Center, and 11 years later, I completed my PhD and joined the Wabash community. From the first few days, I received a great deal of advice from faculty and staff. While I know it was all well-intended, some of it was contradictory and confusing. Some warned me about the high levels of testosterone on campus. Others cautioned me about attending fraternity dinners. 1 or 2 went so far as to suggest there was some sort of underground movement to undermine the females on campus. On the positives, many faculty and staffs bragged about how dedicated the students are, how hard they work, and how seriously they take the liberal arts. I heard stories about students coming from nothing and becoming top-ranked students going forward into exciting careers. I was told how the students took care of each other and how athletics worked closely with the faculty to support all of the students. Instead of trying to reconcile all of these comments, I decided to sit back and watch. I had a clear job, set goals, and a simple task: help Wabash men do their very best. As the days turned into weeks and then months, I started to form my own view of Wabash and Wabash men. It took a couple of years, a great deal of thought and reflection, to piece it all together. From where I stand, there are two core elements to Wabash men: the gentleman's rule and the motto, Wabash Always Fights. The gentleman's rule sets a standard. It establishes expectations and needs, but it's malleable, and that's part of its strength. It allows for growth and maturity. In 1861, being a gentleman was different than being a gentleman today. Each generation is able to adapt the concept of gentleman to evolve and learn. The gentleman's rule sets the stage, but the motto gives it a soul. As a writing professional, I pay very close attention to words. Just ask any of my students. My initial interpretation of the motto was very narrow and limited. I thought it was honestly limited to athletics. In fact, I was told it came from comments by an opponent during a football game. Now, I don't know if that's actually where the motto came from, but it made sense at the time, so I accepted it, assumed it was just a chant or something used at athletics events, and moved on. I was wrong. I was very wrong. You see, the word fight has multiple meanings. It can mean a physical confrontation or imply aggression, but that is an oversimplified interpretation. To fight can also mean to protest. We see rallies on the news in which people are peacefully fighting for rights. Not long ago, we saw huge peace fights for gay marriage. We recently saw peace fights for change in firearm regulations. Here at Wabash, I begin to see that fight was the drive in each Wabash man to be stronger and better than he was yesterday. You can see it in the hours spent in the library. You can see it in the excellent work presented by students. You can see it in their performance during comps. Wabash men fight to be better than they were. Now, to bring this back around, I'll take a moment to tell you what I've seen and not seen that leads me to this view. Within a week of classes starting, the first time of semester, I saw a far wider range of masculine identities than I had ever seen. I was used to seeing 3 or 4 strict masculine identities. Within days and weeks of being here, I started to see more nuanced masculine identities. It wasn't just, you have the jock, you have this, you have that. You started to see shades of what does it actually mean to be a jock, and there's different levels of that, and then the fraternity, and then this. It wasn't just categories. It was nuanced. It was varied. Here, men can comfort each other without repercussion. Instead of these strict, rigid, men do this, women do that, men can't do that, I started to see that Wabash men had some more freedom to explore their identity more freely and with less difficulty. I live in the library these days. And being skilled at moving quietly, I overhear many Wabash men in conversations in the library. I've seen men openly hug each other and comfort each other when one of them is struggling. You would never see that at Purdue. You would never see that at Boise State, and you surely would never see that in the Army. One of the most striking conversations I heard were 2 men, Wabash men, discussing a deep personal issue. At other schools, these 2 men would be viewed as hulking meatheads and expected to act as such. Instead, these 2 men were perfectly mature and respectful. Neither used derogatory names for the woman involved. The friend kept asking, how will that affect her? And is that what you need? The discussion was not about how to get the woman in bed or how to exploit her or use her. The discussion was 2 men struggling with the complexities of relationships. Based on my background and some of the comments from faculty and staff when I first got here, I expected to see a few things on campus that I've never seen. I have not seen a fraternity at Wabash systematically plan, prepare, encourage, and hide date rape. I have seen that on co-ed campuses, but not at Wabash, who, in the words of some, was described as an all-male, testosterone-drenched, overly aggressive college. I have not seen female staff and faculty refuse to work with specific students out of fear for their safety. I have seen that at other colleges. I've been the one they've asked to sit and escort them when working with students. I have never seen female coworkers ask other male coworkers to sit with them, but I've seen that other places. I have not seen female staff and faculty harassed or assaulted at fraternity functions. In fact, what I have seen are entire families, to include preteen girls, go to a fraternity function completely safe and have a good time and be taken perfectly care of. I do not hear all the women being regularly degraded, insulted, and verbally attacked. I rarely have heard any of the men use derogatory terms for women, and when I have, it has always been directed at a specific person for a specific reason, much like how any other faculty and staff would refer to any faculty of another gender that they had a problem with. In short, I have not seen what I was warned about: the entitled, aggressive, overly masculine, borderline misogynistic student body. What I have seen are men who are learning, growing, and maturing. Are all Wabash men perfect? Of course not. I have seen issues and problems. I have talked with men who experience racist comments and actions. I've worked with men who have been harassed due to their gender. I have talked with female faculty who have been objectified. However, that is not the point. The point is, Wabash men are learning. One of the goals of liberal arts education is to instill morals and to build awareness of the wider context of life. Wabash men are on that path, and it is a lifelong path. We will not always see who each Wabash man becomes, but we are part of his journey, one that is guided by the gentleman's rule and driven by the motto, Wabash always fights. Thank you.